Hi, my name is Carolyn Smith. I'm a wife and a mother to 5 girls, and I homeschool 3 of them currently. Wanted to share a little bit about why I feel called to homeschool, I guess. In thinking over what to say, I found out that I actually relate to Moses a lot in his calling story. In that I was very confident that this is what I wanted to do very early on before I had kids. And then, just like Moses, he was confident and went out and did it, but then when it actually came down to it, he felt completely inadequate, and that's kind of my story. Me and my husband had decided early on we wanted to homeschool. When we started having kids, all of a sudden the idea just felt absolutely overwhelming. But it was something I had seen my mom do. I was homeschooled. So it was something I came into motherhood knowing it was possible, even if it wasn't always perfect. So yeah, I guess as I continued on my motherhood journey and my kids grew up, we decided we're going to go down this road even though we don't feel necessarily capable of doing it. And so it's in Moses's period of telling God all the reasons he can't do it. That's where I feel like I relate the most. In homeschooling our kids, it's something that I feel like I do because of my relationship with God. And that in itself is a struggle because it's different than just about everybody else around me. And so I struggle with my reasons for even doing it. And then I struggle with the day-to-day of it because it's heavy. It's heavy to be a parent. And all the things that goes along with parenting, and then to add the pressure of feeling like I have to educate my kids to a certain standard on top of that can feel very heavy. I guess I struggle with finding the balance between all of the things of parenting, feeding my kids healthy food, making sure that we are living a balanced life, and then the pressure of educating my kids on top of that. I struggle with my own self-confidence in knowing that, or trying to know, I guess, that I'm doing a good enough job, that my kids are learning well enough. And then every year when I have to do my homeschool reporting, I struggle with trying to word that in a way that sounds intelligent because I've taken that responsibility on myself to homeschool my kids. And yet in all of the struggles, it's not something I feel that I can let go of. At this point in our lives, I feel like this is what we're called to do. And it's what works the best for our family, and in some aspects it's exactly what we need to be doing right now. It works for us. The reality of homeschooling in our home is that some days are just really, really hard. Some days everybody's mad at everybody else and we don't accomplish much. Some days, on the other hand, we come away feeling like this is awesome. I'm very glad we do what we do. But I guess the reality of any calling is that it's good days and it's bad days. And we don't do it for the good days or the bad days. We do it because it's what we feel like we need to do. I had a friend who was a veteran homeschool mom. All of her kids are grown up and married now. who told me in the last, I don't know, 3 years or so, she told me that your job as a homeschool mom is not necessarily to educate your kids to a certain standard, it's to teach them how to learn. So you teach them the basics, and you teach them about their relationship with God. And to me, that was just so inspiring, because my relationship with God is part of what motivates me to homeschool my kids. She encouraged me to memorize the Bible with my kids, and that has been one of the most valuable things I think that we have gained from homeschooling, is just the space in our days that we intentionally memorize. I love that my kids memorize so easily, they put me to shame. But I also love that by helping them to memorize and guiding them along with that, it's like I end up with these verses stuck in my head too. And as someone who was homeschooled and memorized a lot of scripture as a kid, I know that those verses are going to stick with them for the rest of their lives, whether they want them to or not. And so, yeah, I value that. This year we have been memorizing, along with other passages, we've been memorizing the second half of Romans 8, because we did the first half last year, and it's a long chapter. But we have basically finished it now. And so the last half of Romans 8 is the part that everybody knows about, how we are more than conquerors and about how nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. Before that, one of the passages that recently stuck in my mind was, well, I'll just read verses 28 to 30. It says, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. We all know that verse, very familiar. I didn't know these next ones so well. For those God foreknew, he also predestined to be conformed to the image of his Son, that he, Jesus, might be the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. And those he predestined, he also called. Those he called, he also justified. Those he justified, he also glorified. The part where it talks about Jesus being the firstborn among many brothers and sisters. Recently, there was a hard day or a hard week of homeschooling. I don't remember exactly, but we have been coming weekly in the mornings to come and meet with some moms and pray together. And it's been just this little space of peace and stillness in my life, which has been so valuable. So this particular morning, we were here at the church and we were praying together, and I just felt so defeated and so heavy, and that I couldn't do it. And so as I sat there, I didn't even have the words to say. Sorry, I hit the mic. I didn't have the words to say even to God what I was feeling. So I sat there and I listened, and as I sat there, God brought to me the picture in my mind of him as my older brother, and me just going and sitting with him. And he puts his arm around me, and I just sit there, and it's like he held space for me in that moment. And in that moment, God gave me the permission, I guess, to just rest in him and gain strength from that until I was ready to go back and face my life. And I thought about that so much since then, about how valuable it is that in this calling and this road that we've chosen to walk down, I'm not doing it alone. I'm doing it with him, and he's walking with me. And when it feels like it's too much, he's right there, and I can just go in for a hug. and rest there for a while. Yeah, and because of the verses that we memorized, that picture came into my mind, and those verses came into my mind, and yeah, homeschooling for the win, I guess. Yeah. Anyways, all of this to say, calling isn't always victorious or beautiful. Sometimes it's hard and messy. And I mean, ain't that the story of the Christian life, right? Life is a series of ups and downs, and yeah, even though this year maybe even has been harder with moving and just the stage that all of my kids are at, it's what we're going to keep doing for the present, because it's what I feel like is best for our family and for our kids. So yeah, that's a little bit of my calling as it relates to homeschooling and parenting and just life in general. I hope you guys can find some encouragement there.